Hello, welcome to my channel, Anglican Aesthetics. I'm saddened to make a video like this. As you guys know, I prefer constructive content. I prefer the sort of catechetical initiative material that we're doing. That's the sort of thing that energizes me. I got into Roman Catholic dialogue because I saw a need, because people are struggling with ecclesial anxiety. And so I accept debates because I think that that edifies the body of Christ to see the best case for both sides because, as our Roman Catholic brethren claim, this is allegedly a matter of eternal salvation. That if you are not invincibly ignorant, then you will go to hell. And the Eastern Orthodox make similar claims. So that's why I do these debates and dialogues. Now, recently, Eric McCabe from Catholic Christian released a video accusing me of dishonesty and lying. Those are pretty serious charges. His basis for this is that on X, I pointed out that he didn't seem to understand that baptism eliminates all temporal punishment owed to sin. What we're about to see is that Eric claims that he did, in fact, say that, and I'm just lying. But I'll let the clips speak for themselves and then chime in at the very end of the video. Namely, that Eric, on the one hand, said that only after I quoted Catholic sources, Roman Catholic sources, and then on the other hand, seemed to deny it in other questions. In other words, he flatly contradicted himself during our debate, which means he doesn't actually understand the implications and the import of the teaching of the Roman Church itself on baptism. I'll let these clips speak for themselves. First, we'll watch the video that Eric put out with respect to me, that clip that with respect to me. And then we'll go ahead and watch some of the clips from the debate. So here it is.
During the cross-examination of our debate, where he cross-examined me, I felt somewhat caught off guard and noticed something did not seem right. He would frequently bring up the church's teaching on purgatory from different sources, press me on what they meant, and would more than once tell me that I either didn't know what my own church teaches or that I don't agree with what my own church teaches. We can't owe anything, God.
Yeah, so I would just simply deny, I actually think that's a misrepresentation of Roman teaching because the Catechism of the Council of Trent itself affirms that one of the purposes of temporal punishment is to punish sins as distinct from to heal us. So
that I don't disagree with that, but I'm talking about the language you're using of vengeance. I don't disagree with that distinction at all. Now, to the part where I was slandered publicly by my opponent. So weeks after the debate, Sean and I would continue to engage in debating elements of purgatory online. After heated exchanges, he made this post and this claim regarding myself. Here is not one, but two different clips showing where I say the exact opposite of Sean's claim. Hence, no punishment of satisfaction is imposed upon men at their baptism, since they are fully delivered by the application of Christ's satisfaction.
Yeah. So, Eric, it seemed so. I just just to start us off for a topic of discussion, to get clarity. Did I hear you right in that baptism? Are you affirming that baptism wipes away all the temporal punishment due to sin, such that the one who dies right after baptism would not go to purgatory? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only did I mention in my opening statement, as you saw, that baptism removes all temporal punishments, but when asked in the cross-examination if baptism removes all temporal punishments, I say, quote, yes, absolutely, end quote. Okay, Sean, you mentioned that certain elements left over after baptism, like concupiscence and physical death, aren't punishments.
What do you mean that if they're not punishments, what would they be then?
But intrinsically, in and of themselves, they are punishments from original sin or consequences of original sin.
I would
not?
deny that they are for the baptized. That in baptism, their character of punishment is taken away and they are transfigured into purely medicinal remedies and medicinal chastisements for the baptized.
I think it's a both and. I don't think this is dichotomy like, no, it's not a punishment. Yes, it's a medicinal remedy. I think it's both.
Okay, so Eric, would you agree that penitential works are imposed not only for the remedy of infirmity or preservation of new life, but also for the avenging of past sins?
No, I deny the word avenging. Any type of vengeance or avenging, absolutely not.
Nope.
So when the Council of Trent says that priests are to impose penance not only for the remedying of infirmity or the preservation of a new life, but also for the avenging of past sins, would you reject this?
So what part of the Council of Trent is that?
Yeah,
are you talking the Council of Trent or the Catechism of the
Council of Trent?
Right? So there's no element of like strict vengeance of like hatred. You know what I mean? Where we just are punished for the sake of being punished because it's owed to God and not, because really in the strict sense, Sean, we can't owe anything God.
Yeah. So I would just simply deny, like, I actually think that's a misrepresentation of Roman teaching because the Catechism of the Council of Trent itself affirms that one of the purposes of temporal punishment is to punish sins as distinct from to heal us. So
that I don't disagree with that, but I'm talking about the language you're using of vengeance. I don't disagree with that distinction at all.
So you seemed to have just denied that God punishes us in part because punishment is owed to us. That is a distinct function of punishment, as distinct from God punishing us in order to heal us. Would you agree that those are distinct functions of punishment?
I mean, they're distinct, but they're one and the same thing too,
How are they distinct but one and the same?
Well, I mean, because one, we're talking about retributive justice, and the other, we're talking about the sanctity and the cleanliness of our soul. But the punishment does both. It's not like, we got post-mortem purification in this room, post-mortification punishment in that room.
So in one and the same,
they're distinct in that sense. It's a dichotomy. It's a dichotomy. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, so you're affirming the singularity of the punishment, but would you agree that those two functions are distinct?
What functions? I'm sorry.
So both the functions of punishment in healing the soul and the function of punishment in satisfying divine justice, namely punishment doled out because someone deserves to be punished.
I mean, yeah, language-wise, linguistically, yeah, etymologically, you could say that, but I'm just saying I don't see, punishment over here, cleansing over there. I don't see that. That's just me.
Would you agree that if a mass intention is done for another person, so a relative in purgatory, that in that mass intention, they have a participation in the satisfactory fruit of that vicarious action, but not the medicinal fruit of that vicarious action? Would you agree with that?
That's a really good question. I'm not going to lie. So this is how I would take it. As far as again, it seems like you're putting these two things in a dichotomy. Like there's the cleansing part, the sanctity, the purification part of the soul, and then there's this bucket over here of temporal punishment and the vicarious suffrages that the living faithful can offer on behalf of the dead in purgatory, or the alive rather. It only goes to like one compartment and not this other compartment.
So when the Catechism of the Council of Trent says that alms offered and masses offered for another person in purgatory, that the person receiving that has a share in the satisfactory fruit of punishment, but not the medicinal fruit of that punishment, do you deny that?
Can you quote? Yeah,
I don't know what your infatuation with this catechism is. I'm
Mhm.
not bound to the catechism of the
I would
of the Council
I
of
would
Trent.
I would deny that because the Catechism of the Council of Trent was approved by the Pope. It is magisterial per the Professio Fide. You are bound to affirm all that the Pope has approved as part of his magisterium, whether infallible or not, to give religious submission of mind and will to it. And so you are bound then per the structure of your own church's authority system to affirm the Roman Catechism as an authoritative exposition of the Council of Trent, because that conforms to the intention of the pontiff.
I'm not saying I reject it. I'm just saying you're telling me that I'm bound to the Catechism of the Council of Trent in the same way I'm bound to the canons in the Council of Trent.
You're bound to the Catechism of the Council of Trent in the same way you're bound to the contemporary Roman Catholic Catechism. And so you're bound to the Catechism of Trent as an authoritative exposition of what Trent means.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so given that,
but I don't. Go ahead. Sorry.
So given that you're bound to it as an authoritative exposition of what Trent means, given that the Catechism says that if you perform a mass intention for another, that person does not have a share in the fruit of that relative to medicinal healing, but only relative to satisfaction, wouldn't it follow that you are bound to then accept that as an authoritative exposition of Trent?
See, what I, again, with all due respect, what I see you doing is you're going to something in the Catechism of the Council of Trent, not the Council of Trent, even though it's expounded and even though there may be some ordinary universal binding going on there.
So the reason is because it
situates, you can interrupt me. Sorry.
Yeah, so the reason is because it situates the affirmation that penitential works, for instance, are done not only for the preservation of a new life or the remedying of infirmity, but also for the avenging of past sins. So contextualizes the way the Council of Trent itself distinguishes those two functions. To get clarity, did I hear you right in that baptism? Are you affirming that baptism wipes away all the temporal punishment due to sin, such that the one who dies right after baptism would not go to purgatory? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. So would you agree then that, like, let's say, I don't know, I'm a thief, I owe my neighbor, whatever I stole to him, that if I'm baptized, then me returning that to my neighbor is not a matter of satisfaction of temporal debt, because there's no temporal debt that hangs over me. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I absolutely disagree. Not only in retribution, right? Retributive, but recompensating that person. So you're indebted to that person. And same thing with God. Even though in the strict sense, God doesn't have to ask for a temporal punishment to be satisfied, but he does so for our sanctification, for our merits and stuff like that.
So I agree that there's a vertical debt, a horizontal debt owed to my neighbor. But would you, given that it's being done right after baptism, right, which means the newly baptized person doesn't have any temporal debt left, right? There's no temporal punishment hanging over their head. Then their act of returning whatever they stole to their neighbor, how could it be a work of satisfaction of temporal debt if they have no temporal debt left right after baptism?
So are you saying that, let's say a person, an adult for the sake of argument, an adult steals a whole bunch of stuff, gets baptized, dies, and then that baptism erases and effaces every temporal punishment? I
think that's what your church teaches. Yes.
What about all the inordinate inclinations, all the habits, all the roots, all the vices on the soul?
Sure.
What about that?
Yeah, so it seems that because in the Roman system, concupiscence doesn't have the nature of sin, it wouldn't merit temporal punishment, because that which merits temporal punishment.
I'm not talking about the inclination and the sensitive appetites. I'm talking about the remnants of sin in the faculties of the soul.
Right.
Like
So,
the rust penetrating it. You know what I mean?
yeah, the tinders of sin. But the tinders of sin, as far as I understand, is the tinders of sin do not have themselves the character of sin. So God doesn't punish us for the tinders of sin. He punishes us for sin itself, right? For the acts of sin that then exacerbate those tinders. So it seems like, that you can't attribute you can't say temporal punishment is owed to the baptized on account of the tinders of sin remaining in them. Is that what and maybe I'm misunderstanding, is that what you're trying to argue?
Okay, so let me explain it like this. When you have an inordinate attachment to something, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever it is, to created goods, right? This is a part of the temporal debt of punishment, is the stain and the remnants of sin from the inordinate attachments that you have to created goods. So if you have a criminal or a mafia member or whatever, right? Those inordinate attachments or the habitual vices or whatever, is a part of a remnant on the soul. You know what I mean? That needs to be purified. Now, I don't know if the person, like, maybe that will get purified or maybe that will be taken care of. I don't know, but you can't just
ignore, right, all these different things that happen in someone's soul,
Sure.
pre-baptism or even after baptism, or just right at the end of the death. How much time do we have?
Let me just one last question. I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
You can grill me. So would you believe that there's, I'm going to use your word, I'm going to steal, a distinction between a type of retributive justice done in love, where it sanctifies, and then a type of retributive justice void of love by of those who are damned and are not done in love? So
absolutely. I'm not claiming the Catholic doctrine is that God punishes the sinner to satisfy the debt of justice, like who's in Christ in purgatory, in and of itself, without any regard to their healing whatsoever. Like I grant that purgatory has those as two distinct ends, but nevertheless, the Roman Catholic doctrine of purgatory relies on both of those ends. And so, if you disprove one of those ends as an end of punishment, you've disproven the Roman Catholic notion of purgatory, and purgatory, therefore, in the sense that the Roman Church means it. Okay. And I'm saying that it seems like the Catechism of the Council of Trent distinguishes two distinct functions of, let's say, satisfaction, right? So satisfaction heals the wounds of sin and disarms the divine justice. I just wanted to read this portion here of the Catechism of the Council of Trent. When
you love that thing.
Well, I do, because it's the sort of contemporary exposition that's considered authoritative for centuries of the Council of Trent. So it tells us what the Council of Trent means, right? And it's approved by the magisterium at the time. So given that, right, quote, this is from the section "One person can satisfy for another." In the supremacy the supreme mercy and goodness of God deserve our grateful acknowledgement and praise that he has granted to our fertility the privilege that one may satisfy for another. This, however, is a privilege which is confined to the satisfactory part of penance alone. As regards contrition and confession, no one is able to be contrite for another, but those who are in a state of grace may pay for others what is due to God, and thus we may be said in some measure to bear each other's burdens. This is a doctrine on which the faithful cannot for a moment entertain a doubt, since we profess in the Apostles' Creed our belief in the communion of saints. For since we are all reborn in Christ in the same cleansing waters of baptism, and are partakers of the same sacraments, and above all are nourished with the same body and blood of Christ, as it is manifest we are members of the same body. As then the foot does not perform its function solely for itself, but also for the sake of the eyes, so also works of satisfaction must be considered common to us all. But this is the key part. This, however, is not true in reference to all the advantages to be derived from satisfaction. For works of satisfaction are also medicinal, and are so many remedies prescribed to the penitent to heal the depraved affection of the souls. It is clear that those who satisfy for themselves can have no share. Those who do not satisfy for themselves can have no share in this fruit of penance. So again, the Catechism of the Council of Trent is what's distinguishing these two things. That in making vicarious satisfaction for another, that other person is having a share in one part of penance and not the other.